Hello, my name is Anna Marisa Campbell. The country that I'm going to report about is New Zealand. New Zealand is also known as Aotearoa. It is called Aotearoa by the Maori people, and for them it means the land of the long white cloud. In this presentation, on the first part, I will talk about some key facts about the country, a brief history, and some information about the people and their traditions. On the second part, I will discuss the research article, and I have chosen the associations between cultural identity and mental health outcomes for indigenous Maori youth in New Zealand. For the third part, I will going to leave some questions for discussion. In this slide, you will see a map, and you can find New Zealand on the southeastern part of the Pacific. Of Australia. And they said that New Zealand is not part of the subcontinent of Australia, but instead it is a part of the submerged subcontinent called Zealandia. Some key facts about New Zealand. They said that it has 2,068. I'm sorry, it says 268,000 square kilometers. And the capital is Wellington. The largest city is Auckland, and the national language is English and Maori. In terms of global competitiveness, New Zealand ranked number 19 according to the 2018 World Economic Forum. The system of government is constitutional monarchy headed by Queen Elizabeth and Queen Elizabeth II, yes, and she is represented by the Governor General. The government of this country has three branches, and the executive is the one who administers the law, and the parliament makes the law, and the judiciary interprets the law through the courts. Some information on its history. The first settlers were the Maori people. They are Polynesians who settled in the northern island approximately about 13th century. And then they were followed by the Europeans, and the first one who reached these islands were the Dutch, headed by the explorer Abel Tasman in 1642. He's the first one who discovered the island, and he claimed it for Holland, and he is the one who first called it New Zealand. I think he named it after a town in Holland. Tasman was followed by Captain James Cook in 1769. He's the one whose picture is down below, and he claimed the island for England. He's the first one to make a detailed map of the island. In 1772, another European, he is a French explorer, Joseph Marion du Fresnay. He visited the Northland, and he also claimed the country for France. These gentlemen were followed by merchants and traders eventually, and some fishermen also. They were the whalers and the sealers. And also during the time that when they discovered gold in the area, the more people from Europe came to settle in the area, in the land, in the country. In 1830, since there's a discovery of some minerals, the British government was pressured to establish their presence and to bring order in the northern island. Also, they were afraid that the French will really um, claimed the island. And so in 1940, the Treaty of Waitangi was signed, and around 500 Maori chiefs and British Crown representatives signed the treaty. Then here, William Hobson became the first governor of New Zealand, and New Zealand became a British colony. Then between 1840 and 1893, that's they call the period of assimilation. There were also some ethnic wars, and also there was also a resistance from some Maori leaders. And then in 1893, New Zealand became the first country in the world to grant all women the right to vote. And then they also were the first one to offer state pension and state housing for workers. In 1907, New Zealand became an independent dominion of England. They refused to be part of Australia. The population in New Zealand reached 4 million, let's just say 4.9 million as of December 2019. That's just an approximate. And the total male is 2.4 million, and the female is around 2.5 million. Based on 2013 census, the leading ethnic groups in New Zealand are the European, which comprise 74%, the Maori people, which comprise 14.9%, and the Pacific people, around 7.4%, and people from Middle East, Latin America, Africa also, they comprise the 1.2%. The main religion based on the 2013 census is Christianity. They comprise 48%. There were also Hinduism, which is 2.11%, and Buddhist comprise 1.5%, Islam 1.18%. There's a Maori religion, but approximately very few. Here are some of the famous people from New Zealand. They said Ernest Rutherford rather, is a physicist, and he was the one who first made the model of an atom. And then my favorite movie, The Lord of the Rings trilogy, was made in New Zealand, and Peter Jackson was the film director. Interesting trivia that since the creation of when they made the Lord of the Rings trilogy in New Zealand, the Hobbiton became the one of the tourist attraction, and the tourism industry increased in New Zealand. Another famous Kiwi is Keith Urban. He's a famous singer and Grammy Award winner. Here in this slide are some traditions in New Zealand, and one of them is called hongi. They say that it is a traditional way of greetings among the Maori people, and it is often used as on major ceremonies. Well, they said it's like it's similar to handshake in the Western culture. In this way of greeting, the breath of life, which they call ha, is exchanged and blended. Though through these greetings, the person is no longer considered a visitor, but is now one of the people of the land. The person is no longer a stranger. Another tradition is called the Maori hangi. It is a traditional Maori method of cooking and where they put meat such as pork, beef, lamb, sheep, and chicken with vegetables, and they place it in cloth sacks, baskets, and aluminum foil. They then put these baskets on top of hot stones, and at the bottom, on top of the hot stone, at the bottom of a small pit, yes, and they covered it with a wet cloth and some mud to prevent any heat from escaping. They then let it cook for 3 to 4 hours, and after that they take it out. Hanging, they said, is not just about cooking the food, but it is also a social occasion. Here is another interesting tradition from New Zealand. It's called um, haka. It is a traditional Maori war dance used to display the tribe's pride and unity. The group's action shows violent foot stamping, tongue protrusions, and rhythmic body slapping while chanting loudly. Haka is practiced during Maori celebration and ceremonies like birthday, weddings, funerals, and even before the rugby games. I'm going to show you a video of this wedding haka. That's awesome and full of emotion. Okay, hold on for a while.